Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Third and Teal. This is going to be episode 6. We have a special guest on today, obviously. We've got Generation Jaguar, a.k.a. Jordan DeLugo. Thank you so much for coming on today. Super excited to have you on here. Make sure you guys like and subscribe. As always, though, we've got a little bit different of an order on the screen today, but we got Mr. Eric up top. We'll go with you first today. How you doing, Eric?
I'm doing great. And by the time I get up on top, that's right. I'm doing great.
Trevor did enough yelling last week. I guess they moved him down a little bit. But hey, how you doing this morning, Jordan? We'll go with Jordan first.
I'm doing well. Battling a little bit of a cold, getting better. Just got the baby in daycare a few months ago, so it's like every other week there's something new going on. But it's good. Happy to talk some Jags football. Happy to be on here with y'all. Appreciate y'all having me on.
Heck yeah, man. Thanks for coming on. And Trevor, the man who made it happen, what's going on, brother?
Oh, just another day in the neighborhood. We talking Jags football, so it can't be a bad day.
Yeah, okay.
I'm always ready for Jags football.
Always.
Yeah.
So we found out after the show last week, Trevor is 6'5". Didn't know. He's a tall cat. I'm not tall. But we're not going to let that hinder us today. Trevor, what you got for us? What's going on?
All right, man. Well, I can tell you this. I've been following Jordan's page, Generation Jaguar, for a while now. Like if you're a Jaguar fan, especially local to the Duval area, like I am, you're following this page. That being said, he's got a lot of nice apparel on there too, especially I like the band logo stuff. I love the old logo things, which will kind of segue into my first question for you, Jordan. The clothes and apparel obviously are from what the outside appearance would be is your biggest hitter there on your page. Like that's your biggest foot traffic is for the apparel wear and all that stuff. So that being said, how did you get started? Like what time frame are we in? Like how'd you get started? What made you want to do it?
Yeah, so I've been a Jags fan my whole life, football fan my whole life. As soon as I graduated from college in end of 2014, I just wanted like an outlet to write about the Jags. So I started Generation Jaguar, which obviously, kids growing up in the 90s, Generation Jaguar, didn't know anything in Jacksonville besides having the Jaguars. I remember when the team was announced, all that fun stuff, As a kid, I was 2 years old when the Jaguars were formally announced. So maybe I don't remember when they were officially announced, but I remember 95, first season, all that good stuff. So I've just always been a big fan. I was an English major. I wanted an outlet to write about the Jaguars. So that's what Generation Jaguar became. And then, I had friends that wanted to do tailgates and slowly evolved. And I never really planned on doing merch or anything like that, but it kind of just organically happened over the years. And now that's our biggest thing in terms of monetarily. And then obviously I wanted to be able to, make more than what I was making off the website. So starting the YouTube channels made sense at the time a couple years ago. And it's been really good. And I've grown to not just be talking about the Jaguars, but I also have Rogue Football where I talk about the NFL and the NFL draft as well. So it's been a lot of fun growing over the years, getting on YouTube, doing all the merch and, just growing and, having a community. It's fun.
Awesome. Eric, you have anything to say? Any questions about that on that topic before we go on?
No, I'm good. I'm I'm doing my research real fast. Go ahead. Man.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm a lifetime Jaguar as well. Wasn't quite there for the announcement. I was a freshman in high school when you graduated college, so I was born in the year 2000.
There you go.
My grandpa was a big football fan. They're actually Bucs fans. They moved to Jacksonville though, and because the Bucs were terrible, besides that one Super Bowl season, basically, they never came on in Jacksonville. They only had the Jacksonville games on the local channels. So that's what I grew up watching, and yeah, I've always wanted to do a podcast, and I've watched you for a long time and a couple of other big names. I will say that Eric is our Tony Wiggins. He's a wealth of knowledge. He's always super even keel. Trevor, I don't even know who to compare Trevor to. And me, I'm not going to compare myself to anybody because, I just know that Eric is the Tony Wiggins. We're working on everybody else. But with that being said, man, thanks for coming on.
Look, before you go any further, Trevor is our Eminem. That's it right there. All right, Eminem.
Hey, I'll take it.
All right.
No, man, but I'm excited for the opportunity, and hopefully we can, everybody can learn and grow from this. And thanks again, man. What you got, Trevor?
Well, he covered my second question in the answer to his first one, which was, how long have you been a fan? Were you born and raised here? You covered those topics. So my next question is going to be, how do you feel right now? Because this has been the topic of our last few episodes, is just the general status of our team. And especially, I feel like this is going to suit you a little bit better now, knowing that you do the rogue football where you talk about the draft and the rest of the NFL. So talking about the rest of the NFL, where do you think we stack up, especially in our division, maybe even in our entire conference as a whole, and then the league as a whole? And where do you see our gaping holes being in our positions of need in the draft?
Yeah, so when you talk about where the Jaguars stack up in the AFC South, they were right there at the end of the 2023 season. Obviously, they fell apart down the stretch. It was pretty brutal. Injuries played a big part in that. I think maybe some defensive coaching as well, maybe some offensive coaching. And Trevor Lawrence certainly battling through injuries. It was just a recipe for disaster down the stretch. But I think the Jaguars are still right there with the Texans. I would actually have the Texans slightly ahead of the Jaguars at this moment, because I do think that so far the additions they've made in this offseason have just been incredible. And then you talk about, I think that the Texans, instead of kind of sitting on their hands like the Jaguars did last offseason after winning the division for the first time in a while, they were aggressive. And obviously they had a lot more cap space to work with. They had a lot more flexibility this offseason than the Jaguars did last offseason. But the Jaguars made some poor decisions last offseason, in my opinion, and it kind of came back to bite them down the stretch. And so for me, I think that the Texans are slightly ahead. I think the Jaguars are right there. Like, it wouldn't be surprising to me if either of those teams win the division in 2024. And obviously, you have the draft still ahead of you. If the Jaguars nail this draft, they could be in a fantastic position. I think they did fill their biggest hole, which was center, right? You go from Luke Fortner, who was one of the worst starting centers in football, if not the worst in 2023, to Mitch Morse, who is well above average. He's a very good athlete. He has experience with Doug Peterson. He's a veteran. He's a leader. Right? He's been a captain in Buffalo for a long time. He's only been on winning teams for the most part when you talk about the Chiefs and the Bills. So I think that was a massive upgrade. Even if he's not like a top 5 center, I do think he's borderline top 10 at the position and a great athlete. So somebody who fits the Doug Peterson offense well. And so I think that that's huge. I think Eric Armstead, the fact that he almost was a Houston Texan before he came to the Jaguars, not only not going to Houston, but him actually coming to Jacksonville, that's huge. And Eric Armstead, it's not just about his leadership. His play on the field is fantastic. He's one of the best interior rushers in the game. He can also set the edge and base defense for you as well. So this is a guy that's going to help out Josh Allen, help out Trayvon Walker and the rest of that defense. I also think adding Ryan Nielsen as the defensive coordinator was massive. Like, you take a guy who, during his time in New Orleans as the, co-defensive coordinator, and then in Atlanta last year as the defensive coordinator, that team rapidly improved in third down defense, in red zone defense, and they did it without being a team that was reliant on turnovers. Turnovers can be, a false barometer at times of how well a defense is playing, because they can be so up and down. But to me, he's a great coach, and everything you've heard from players, from coaches, Ryan Nielsen is a rising star in this league. And the Jaguars, I think they're very fortunate to have him as their defensive coordinator. I think Doug Peterson, I think he's going to be taking back over play calling duties. That isn't confirmed yet. But when you talk about the fact that he's already talked about it a couple times, why even bring that up? Why even put that inkling of doubt into Press Taylor if you're not moving towards that direction of taking over more of the play calling, more of the offensive coordinator type duties in 2024, the way he did in 2022, the way he did when the Jaguars offense had a lot more success. So I think that you're going to see better coaching. I think you're going to see better trench play, and that's going to be vital for the Jaguars. Obviously, the Texans are a very talented, well-coached team. They added more talent this offseason. The Colts are not going anywhere. Like that is a team not enough people are talking about, with Anthony Richardson coming back, with the offensive line that they have, with the defense that they have. They just have talent all over the field, and I think they're going to be a well-coached team as well. Gus Bradley, the cover 3 defense isn't in vogue really anymore, but it still gets the job done when you have the talent. And then on offense, Shane Steichen, a very good head coach and offensive mind. And so I look at the Colts, I look at the Texans. They're both very good football teams. I think the Jaguars is a good football team as well. The Titans, they spend a lot of money. They're trying to get kind of up to where those other teams are in the division. They've got Will Levis, they've got Calvin Ridley, DeAndre Hopkins, a lot going on there. I still think they're a tier behind the other 3 teams in this division.
See, that's nice to see that.
Yeah, I actually did want to ask.
Jags fans are in touch. Like when you talk to Texans fans, most Texans fans have become delusional with the sense of overachievement, because C.J. Stroud is their first big home run and since Deshaun Watson, and then we saw what happened there. But he was their first big home run, and they found success for the first time in a while, and now they're just completely delusional. Every Jaguars fan, for the most part, that I've talked to is pretty even keel and level-headed in the fact that we could go either way, that we have the talent, we have the star power. There's no real excuse for why we can't close a season and be on top. There's no reason we shouldn't be able to. It's just going to come down to, like you said, our coaching, because now we've got the playmakers, and we just locked up our biggest one on defense anyway, in my opinion, our biggest defensive playmaker in Josh Allen. Which will be the next topic. So go ahead and, prepare how you feel about the contract details and stuff. But that being said, I like also what you said about just realizing that the Colts aren't going anywhere, because that is something that not enough people recognize. The Colts didn't do anything big in the offseason. So offseason wise, they definitely were the losers of our division offseason wise. But that being said, they made a lot of key re-signings, but people are calling it a loss because they didn't bring any new pieces after a losing season, but they were missing a lot of their key pieces last year. So those guys coming back, we're really going to see what that Colts team can do. Titans team fans are all delusional. They've lost their damn mind, like absolutely out of their mind. Okay. You made another point too about if we can nail it in the draft. So that being said, what is your round 1 pick? If it's you, and with the way that these mock drafts have been falling, and I'm not talking about these like outlandish ones where we trade to 6, you know what I mean? Like just a typical logical draft order that these mock drafts have been falling under. What is your round 1 pick 17 take going to be?
I think the great thing for the Jaguars is they have a lot of good options at 17. They could trade down, they could trade up a little bit. I think for me, I value my board. I value best player available strategy. And I look at who's going to be available at 17. I would love to add a Johnny Newton or a Byron Murphy interior defensive line. I think if you add one of those guys, you're now talking about creating a defensive front that could be absolutely dominant throughout the 2024 campaign and beyond. And I think that has just as much to do with stopping the pass as drafting a cornerback. But I do like 3 receivers that are going to be there likely at 17 potentially. Brian Thomas Jr., Adonai Mitchell, Keon Coleman. Would not be mad about any of those guys, especially when you talk about the idea that they don't have to be the number 1 receiver from day one.
Dang it.
Like, you have receivers. Like, you have Christian Kirk can be a high volume receiver. Evan Ingram, a high volume receiver. Gabe Davis can catch a lot of passes for you, and so can Zay Jones if need be. So, like, the guy doesn't have to come in and immediately be the number 1. You fill him into a role early on in his rookie season and then just develop and develop and develop. I think all 3 of those guys can do that. Most likely for me, though, I think the Jaguars are going to take a corner in the first round. Everything they've done this offseason to me points in that direction. They didn't really spend any money. Ronald Darby, I think, is a nice addition, but from a monetary standpoint, very cheap contract. And beyond that, where's the money? There is no money, right? They haven't spent any money on the cornerback position. Tyson Campbell, he's going into the final year of his rookie deal. Everybody else on the roster is basically on a veteran minimum deal or a rookie deal. So I think that it's pointing towards corner. in the first round for the Jaguars. And I think they would love it if Terrion Arnold is there. I think Kool-Aid McKinstry is a great trade down target. I wouldn't mind taking him at 17 overall either. I actually have him slightly ahead of Terrion Arnold. But again, for me, I'd be targeting Johnny Newton or Byron Murphy. If either of those guys is available at 17, I'd be all over it. I think the Jaguars, however, will be looking at the cornerback spot.
Okay, well, that being said, Eric and Isaiah, we've all discussed this a few times, our draft board and how we feel, anything like that. But well, I guess we'll go in order. Eric's above me directly. So, Eric, how do you feel about his take on going interior D-line to create just an overall unstoppable force as a defensive front?
Now, come on. I played linebacker. I love it. I love it. I really do. Now, the question is, though, will any of those cats be there at the time that we got highly valued on our board? See, that's so. I kind of lean toward corner, like we said the other day, Wednesday. I think that's what they're shooting for right now. Hopefully, they can hit on another Jalen Ramsey, but the closest they can get in their eyes right now. So I agree with him. I do.
How you feeling, Isaiah?
Yeah, I mean, we've definitely talked about it. I've talked about Jerzon Newton as well. He was one actually on Wednesday or last Thursday, whenever the episode launched. But or really that was yesterday. Wow. But Jerzon Newton was one that actually I had put as somebody who had jumped out to me. He's a phenomenal run defender. He's a much better pass rusher. And I know, Jordan, you had mentioned this yesterday on your episode that had launched. Jerzon Newton is a much better pass rusher than a Devon Hamilton, even though he's a little bit smaller. At least, unless I'm misquoting you there, I do believe you had said that on the episode. And just watching tape and everything, I've definitely, I just like him. He's got good footwork for a big guy. I mean, 6'2", 304. He's not overly big to where he can't get after it, but he's also not undersized to a point where a center or a guard's going to throw him around. But I could see us taking him at 17 if he's there. I could see us moving up potentially to like a 12 to 10 pick to try and get if some reason Gabe Neighbors falls out of the top 10. Don't see it happening, but crazier things have happened. I do have a question though, Jordan, for you. I had thought about this yesterday watching your episode, kind of wanted to ask. For me personally, I think it's going to be wide receiver in the first round. I think if you can get a BTJ and a Adonai Mitchell, which I'm glad you said that because I was like, it has an AI at the end. Is it Adonai or Adonai? Because I've heard it both ways. I think it's Adonai Mitchell, but I think that Adonai Mitchell might have one of the highest ceilings in this draft for a first round wide receiver because of the height, the weight, the athleticism. He's got great 40 time. I would love to take him at 17 because my take this whole time, we had talked about this on our top 3 needs. I had mentioned Johnny Newton. He's jumped up my draft board. I know on your episode, you had talked about him potentially being a better pass rusher than Devon Hamilton, even though he's not quite as big as Devon Hamilton. Devon Hamilton is more of a run stopper. But I think Johnny Newton has the footwork and the hands to be able to be that same run stopping ability, but a much better pass rusher. With that out of the way, though, my main question was, I think that there's less top end wide receiver 1 talent than there are cornerback 2s, and I think that's potentially what we're drafting for as of right now. I think they're still holding out hope for Tyson Campbell. Do you think that if we go wide receiver 1, it's because we're drafting corner 2 rather than corner 1, or do you think that potentially we're going to go corner in the first round to try and see if Tyson doesn't work out, we're just going to let him go?
Well, I don't know that they want to let Tyson Campbell go. I do think that they probably want Tyson to prove it again this year after a down year. Injuries did play a big factor in that, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
They slowed him down in a big way. But I do think they probably want him to prove it in 2024 once again in a new defense, right? But I think that the idea that they want to draft a corner, you need more than 2 good corners. And Ronald Darby is a guy who is a good corner when on the field, but he has had a lot of injuries throughout his career. Talk about Tyson Campbell. He's missed time in 2 of his 3 seasons in the NFL. So I think that personally, like I said, I think they're going to go corner round 1. I think they want to land somebody who they think can be their CB1 long term. I do personally, though, I think that there's great value in the cornerback position in the second round, potentially into the third round as well. depending on how the draft shakes out, right? But I think that when you talk about like a Renardo Green and Ennis Rakestraw, these are the type of guys that could come in and start for you right away in the second round, even Max Melton, and do a very good job for you. Uh, I just, again, the way that they have invested at certain positions throughout the last couple years in this offseason, to me, it all points towards cornerback. Sure, they could go get a wide receiver one if they see the value of that in the first round. I wouldn't be surprised by it. But if I had to make my bet, it would be at cornerback because I think that they're probably super high on Terrion Arnold and Kool-Aid McKinstry coming out of Alabama. I think they're probably very high on Quinyon Mitchell, who I don't think will be there at 17. But I think those are three guys that they would love to add to their secondary.
Absolutely. Sweet. Thank you.
So that being said, though, I like that you said that there's depth in the cornerback position deep into the draft. Well, we got an insight to Balky definitely wanting to track down some information on Ricky Pearsall. So how do you feel about the wide receiver depth later into the draft? Now, people have called this draft class one of the deepest receiver classes that we've had in recent memory for sure, but a long time at that. In your ideal situation, you're taking interior D line round one, then in your opinion, where do you go round two? Because you say, we've got depth at both of our other, in my opinion, key positions of need. Those were our three, we got the center taken care of, as you mentioned, right? So we've gotten a piece for the interior D line, but it's not finished. And then we've got cornerback and wide receiver. So those are our three key needs still. Where do you go round two, based off of the realistic mock drafts that have come out? Obviously, we're not going to be able to pinpoint the exact shakedown and how it goes, but just where do you see us going round two?
Yeah, I think like I said, I don't think that the Jaguars are going to go interior defensive line in round one. So I think that they're going to try to go wide receiver and cornerback in the first two rounds, personally, in whatever order. If it's cornerback in round one, which is what I think will happen, then I think they'll try to get a wide receiver in the second round. But I do think if they did go some other position in round one, like I suggest, interior defensive line, I think it's just going to depend on the board whether they go wide receiver or cornerback in round two. I think, if they're able to land a guy like a Renardo Green or an Ennis Rakestraw in round two, I think that they would be fired up about it. I also think that they would probably love some guys that they've shown interest in, right? Jalen McMillan out of Washington. I think he could be a day two target, maybe round three. I think Devontae Walker's a guy they've brought in on a top 30 visit. For me, though, I would love Ricky Pearsall, Ladd McConkey, Javon Baker out of UCF. Jalen Polk is probably my top second round receiver. So there's some guys there at both positions that would make sense in the second round. And then in the third round, there's guys that would make sense as well at both spots. So I think that there is a just really nice group of depth at the positions the Jaguars need the most. And I think that could really help them out in this 2024 NFL draft class. But of course, you look at what Trent Baalke has done after the first round of the draft, it gives you more questions than answers. Like, it's going to be really interesting to see how it plays out beyond round one.
Well, that being said, now Eric and Isaiah, I'd like you guys to chime in on this as well once I get this point out. In my personal opinion, and I do believe it's the shared opinion of the guys that, Isaiah and Eric as well, is that, and even Randy couldn't be with us today, but he's another part of the show, a big key piece. It was his opinion as well that Baalke has definitely taken a different approach this year. It does appear that he's learning from some of his prior mistakes. Now, I'm not saying he's been absolutely perfect and that he's aced everything, but I will say, in my opinion, and I know it's the shared opinion of the guys, that Baalke has definitely taken a better approach this year. And we've definitely been more aggressive this year than we have been in any year I can remember, especially offseason wise. And because you think back to the Evan Ingram contract, we didn't sign him until July, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't sign Ingram until July, right after the franchise tag. They were eager to get Allen done. And I think they learned from the fact, too, like, Ingram took on a lot of conversations with a lot of teams in that time period. Like, not so much to leave because he was tagged, but what was going to happen after the tag was up, because you got to think, when you franchise tag a guy instead of paying him his money, I'm of the opinion that when you do that and you have the money to pay them, you do leave somewhat of a bitter taste in their mouth. Like, not so much. It's not like, oh, they hate the team and they want to leave right now because of it, but because, especially a guy like Josh Allen, you're coming off of breaking our franchise record for single season sacks. You know, you're expecting to be paid. You're not expecting to be set to the side like it's like a side topic. You know what I mean? He wasn't ever a side topic, but I mean, that could be the feeling that gets placed. So all of these things being said, I feel like between all of us, we know Balky's definitely gone a different way. And you brought it up yourself. It was a relatively cheap veteran deal. He's made a couple of those now. How do you feel about Balky this offseason, his approaches to situations where previously he had definitely failed us, and his contracts? Like, how do you feel about his negotiation skills this year?
When it comes to negotiating, I mean, I think that he has always kind of marched to the beat of his own drum. Like, it seemed like when he signed Christian Kirk and Foye Oluokun originally, those deals were a little bit outliers. Like, nobody else was really in that ballpark. But, you know, if you value a player, you know, it is what it is. I think when you talk about the Josh Allen deal, that comes in right above what Brian Burns got in New York. And originally it was reported that it was $30 million per year. It's really about $28.25 million per year. Whether it was 28.25 or 30 million doesn't really matter to me overall. I think you got your guy that is a homegrown talent, a superstar, a guy that does everything the right way, a guy that wants to be in Jacksonville, wants to leave a legacy in Jacksonville, and leads the right way, plays the right way every single down. I think it's huge. I think it says a lot for the locker room. I think it's also just huge for the team to have him locked down for several years. But yeah, I agree that Trent Baalke has done some fantastic things this offseason, like bringing in Eric Armstead and Mitch Morse, not letting them leave the building once you get in contact with those guys, not letting them go anywhere else, I think is huge. But still, I think when you talk about, yes, we can be excited right now that Josh Allen is under contract. He should have been under contract before free agency started. Calvin Ridley should have had the franchise tag placed on him. I strongly believe that. And then you don't really give him the option to hit the free agent market, the open market. Then the Titans don't really enter the picture. And now you're not sitting here worrying about getting a wide receiver, you know, trading for T. Higgins or Brandon Ayuk, or trading up for a receiver, or taking one at 17 or in the second. If Calvin Ridley's in the picture, things are completely different for the Jacksonville Jaguars right now.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Ridley's absence created a big hole for us. Isaiah said that the day that he got signed, actually, if I'm not mistaken, the day he signed was a day we recorded. The first thing we talked about right off the bat was we even said it the prior week that Allen should have had his contract and we should have tagged Ridley, because while Ridley was inconsistent at times and definitely showed the rust that he's wearing a little bit more sometimes than others, he's still that guy that grabbed attention, that if we did take a receiver round 2, round 3 with a good bit of potential but needed some work, he could be that guy to allow the attention to go to him and leave the space for them to do it. Now, the guys that I definitely want, to comment on that, Eric and Isaiah, because they really had some strong opinions about it, and let them feedback off of you. Eric, how do you feel about the potential, like what we should have done there? Do you feel like we should have done that, signed Allen and tagged Ridley?
I thought about it. It did cross my mind. And my thought process is this. If the Jaguars really wanted to do that and keep Ridley, they would have done it. Yeah, you understand? And the reason why I say that, because I was thinking about it, I'm like, well, in 22, my offense was clicking. We went on a roll, got to the playoffs. 23 rolled around, you come on board. Yeah, you had your moments, but is it worth do I really feel like it's worth what you asking me right now? No, gonna take your, it's been nice knowing you. And I think that's what it was. That's why they went after Josh. And the other thing is, the defense needs that leader right now. The offense has theirs, but the defense didn't have, quote unquote. Now with Josh being there, He can groom and show them the way it's supposed to be and the way they're supposed to play. But I really don't think, going back, I really don't think that the Jaguars wanted to keep Ridley as bad as maybe the media kept pushing. That's just my opinion. I'm good with that. Go ahead,
Mhm.
Isaiah.
Some have a little bit different of an opinion on the whole situation. Me personally, I think that Ridley was honestly kind of a distraction on the field. There were a lot of times where Trevor was just forcing stuff to Ridley when he was not open. Anytime he got in trouble, especially after Christian Kirk got hurt, he would immediately just throw the ball up and try and get it to Ridley, or he'd take a sack trying to wait for him to get open or get some space. I think that Ridley is a great player and could potentially be. I mean, I think he's a good player. I think he could potentially be a great player, I should say. I don't know that where he went is the place to do it. Of course, we're doing the tag. We're not paying him nearly what the Titans paid him. So, to say he's not worth that much money, we wouldn't have had to do that for the tag. My opinion, though, on the tag is with Josh Allen, it was honestly, in my opinion, the best person to tag. And the reason I say that is he's had one great season, one good season. The other seasons he's been relatively inconsistent. Of course, we had different defenses, the D coordinator, stuff like that. But a big thing for me is, he's had one great season, which was his contract year. We're bringing in a new defensive coordinator who's bringing in a completely different scheme. Does Josh Allen fit that scheme? Do we know who the defensive coordinator is going to be? Because, of course, before we tagged him and everything, before we got Nielsen in, we were looking at it. I don't necessarily think that they did it this way because they thought they could re-sign Ridley. I thought they had a chance. But personally, for me, I think the tag on Allen was the right way to go, just because I think with all the kind of just mystery going into the offseason of who we were bringing in as the D coordinator, everything like that, I think it was a good choice. Now, would I have loved to see him signed before free agency? Absolutely, because honestly, just the thought of having Josh Allen on the franchise tag, $24 million fully guaranteed, and us trying to sign Trevor, and now there's all these rumors about him coming out. I wish we would have signed him early, but I don't necessarily know if we signed him early if I would have preferred us using the tag on Ridley. Now, do I think Ridley cleans up a lot of those drops and stuff he had in year two? And I think Trevor would be a little bit better about hitting him more in the breadbasket rather than his extended arms? Sure, but I like the franchise tag on Josh to get a long-term deal done. It would have been nice to keep Ridley, but honestly, I think that bringing in a young cat that will have a much better contract and will be under a lot better cap control, I think is going to be a better option at this point in time. But it would have been nice to have him learn behind him.
The one thing I'll say about that, they knew who the defensive coordinator was, and they knew who the defense was going to be, what the defense was going to be prior to placing the franchise tag on Josh Allen. And Josh Allen is not the type of rusher that is not going to fit any scheme. He's played in a 4-3 defense. He's done well. He's played in a 3-4 defense. He's done well. This is a franchise player. So I just, why is it hard to get to $28.25 million? Why did it take 3-4 months instead of just getting it done and then having the flexibility that contract gives you versus the franchise tag? Even if you weren't going to franchise tag Calvin Ridley, I don't think it made sense to franchise tag Josh Allen, because if you would have had the cap space available to you that contract gave you versus the franchise tag, you'd have had $13 million extra dollars going into free agency to play with. So I never understood the franchise tag for Josh Allen. To me, it was Trent Baalke taking his sweet time.
I agree with you there, because I was going to say the same thing. Was we franchise tagged him when we knew that we were going to re-sign him long-term anyway. Baalke almost immediately after the tag was placed came on a press conference and said, we're going to sign him long-term. So if that was your plan, if that's what you were going to do, the only difference I think it would have made was that he would have been signed before free agency instead of waiting till after. I think that would have been the only difference. Now, there's a flip side to that of where, sure, it freed us up that $10, $11 million, but I think Baalke the way that Baalke works, I think Baalke was really waiting to see what was waiting in free agency. Like, is there anybody there that we want to do that for? Because I think Baalke just already planned on Ridley being gone. I really don't think
I don't think that's the case.
Well, I think
the
he
Jaguars
planned on
and the league believed. The Jaguars and the league believed Calvin Ridley was going to be a Jacksonville Jaguar. up until the time that the Titans dropped that contract offer on him, which was right after the new league year started.
Correct. And we offered, or he gave us the chance to match or increase, which is why I do agree with the opinion that if we were going to tag anyone, it probably should have been Ridley, considering we knew we were locking up Allen long term. We knew that was our plan no matter what. Tag Ridley, that gives us 1 year with him to figure out whether or not he cleans it up, whether or not he does pull it back together. That it was like a rental year to see what he's going to do, and then next year maybe sign him. But then again, that also comes full circle to the if we don't get Trevor signed this year, Trevor is due next year, and there's no way we let him hit free agency. There's no way in hell that happens.
No.
So
they do still have the 5th-year option on Trevor.
Yeah.
Agreed,
well.
But I don't believe they're going to do that to him. I really don't. I think they know.
I think they're going to sign him this offseason.
I do too. We are all of that opinion. We discussed that this past week. We do think that's going to happen, but I do think that I think Balky was I think he over counted on the fact that we had to sign Trevor and underestimated the money he would have at the time. I don't know. I just feel like he mishandled it with the tag. And one thing I do got to say real quick before we move to the next topic, Eric, I do not appreciate the Aluakon disrespect because Aluakon is a leader on that defense. He's been a leader on that defense. And if there's ever a guy relaying the plays and getting those guys in line, it's always Aluakon. You always catch him checking.
What Aluakon disrespect? What did Eric say?
Eric said that
go ahead.
Eric said that Allen was our only leader on defense, that we didn't have a leader on defense at all.
I mean, I'll be honest with you.
No.
Aluakon is an X's and O's leader for the linebackers. Josh Allen is the heart and soul of the defense. He's the
I agree with.
Aluakon's great, but Aluakon wasn't any Jaguars fans' defensive player of the year. Josh Allen was.
Before he was.
Josh Allen and Trayvon Walker, they're best friends. They're growing together. I think that Josh Allen is the guy. Everybody knows Josh Allen. He comes out to the media. Everybody loves him. I think he is the primary captain. Now, do I think Foye Aluakon is a wealth of knowledge and a great player that helps, especially the linebackers? I mean, we saw him in Devin Lloyd's rookie year, pointing middle play, go over there, do that. He's great, but I mean, Josh Allen's he's the captain. He's the guy, in my opinion.
Well, you're absolutely right. I just had to point out I can't tolerate the full unacknowledgement of Foyesade Aluakon because that guy was our back-to-back tackle leader for the league. Okay, let's just let the disrespect die right now. All right, that guy is that guy. He's him.
When Josh Allen do that right there.
Oh yeah,
See,
hey, Josh Allen is our heart and soul on defense. That was never my point there. My point was just we do have leaders on defense. We just needed. It was just definitely. It's obviously I'm of the opinion that's our best option to lock down Allen. That was the best thing we could have done this offseason was lock down Allen. But going into that, speaking of Aluakon,
I think Jordan had something to say, Trevor.
Huh? Oh, go ahead.
So I think Jordan had something to say.
Oh yeah, I just would love to agree. I love Foye. I think that going from being day 3 pick out of Yale to what he is now is just a testament to his work. And then you talk about what he's done in Jacksonville as a leader, because I do agree he's a tremendous leader. Veterans the last 2 years have been given off of mandatory minicamp because they did good work in OTAs. Last year, Foye stayed.
Mm-hmm.
They told him to go home, and he was like, nah, I'm good. I'm going to stay here. I'm going to be with my guys. I'm going to try to lead these young linebackers. And that just sticks with me. Obviously, his play on the field sticks with me because, if you need a stop on 3rd down, short of the sticks, who's going to get that for you?
Foyesade Aluakon, baby.
Yeah, Aluakon is going to do it more often than not. But
that actually brings up a good point. Sorry, Jordan. When you're done, I got another question.
Yeah.
Actually.
So I do really, really respect him as a leader and as a linebacker on the field.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. And my question now is, and I thought about this the other day, it completely slipped my mind, but this is an important question. We're now in a base hybrid 4-3. We're going to be doing a lot of different looks, multiple front defense, but in our base 4-3, is it Aluakon? Is it from right to left looking straight at the defense? Is it Aluakon, Lloyd, Muma? Whenever we're in a 4-3?
I honestly don't think they're going to be in the 4-3 very often.
Okay.
And I think you're going to see more of Aluakon and Lloyd with Antonio Johnson or Darnell Savage or both.
Okay.
One of them being in the box, one of them being at safety.
Just an extra back more than an extra linebacker.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
A lot of nickel and quarter looks. Okay, I got you.
Yeah.
Speaking of which will usher us into another topic, re-signing Aluakon. How do you feel about the contract? Because me personally, I'm a huge fan of the contract. I think it was perfect for us and for him. I don't have any complaints. Freed up a good bit of cap space too. So
yeah, I think it was a great contract. It actually freed up less cap space than I expected. But when you talk about paying him, it's less than what his original deal was for the Jaguars when they signed him. He was getting over $14 million a year when they first signed him. Now he's getting like a little bit over 11. Mm-hmm. And so when you talk about where he's at, it's close to top 5. It's top 10 among linebackers, off-ball linebackers in the league. But I think it's a good deal overall. It's basically an extension of 3 years, $10 million per year. I think it makes a lot of sense. And I think at this point, he probably could get more on the open market. But he doesn't want to go anywhere. The Jaguars don't want him to go anywhere. And I think, like you said, good deal for both sides.
I got to give Eric and Isaiah credit for this because they say this all the time. And then obviously want to let them, have their part on it as well. Is we're not paying the Duval tax anymore. Guys want to be in Duval, which is why I think when you see contracts of the stature of what we paid Aluakon at first and what we paid Kirk, when you see those contracts, that's the Duval tax, in my opinion. That is the Duval tax. You're paying the tax for having them come here to a struggling team and having them bear through our build. You have to bear through our rebuild. You're not going to be on a team that's in contention immediately. We could potentially pull it out, but it's unlikely. That's our Duval tax. And that being said, just want to give those guys a chance to just comment, are you guys seeing that the Duval tax is completely gone? Or are you just seeing guys in leadership positions not require it anymore per se? What do you guys think?
I say it's the second, what you said. Guys hey, we don't need to do that no more. We good. We see you got something good going. We're happy here. Hey, just make it work. Like some, your wife would tell you tell your wife, hey, just make it work. You know what I mean? So I think that's basically what happened there. He told his agent, hey, look, just make it work, and he wasn't trying to break the bank because he wanted to be here. He wants to be here, and going back, looking at previous seasons, think about all the free agents that come through and as soon as that contract is up, they out of here. Okay, thank you for the vacation. We see you on the other side of the field. But so I think it's great. I think it's great, and I'm glad he is here. And I do believe Balky is getting smarter with these contracts now. I really do. He's not just jumping out there anymore. Because I heard Jordan said he took his time. And maybe that's part of the process now, to make sure you don't do anything that's going to come back and bite you in the butt 2 or 3 years down the line. Okay, I'm done. Go ahead, Isaiah.
First of all, I call it the Jax tax because it rhymes, just makes more sense. No, but kind of my point with that originally was coming into the team, and my perceived notion was the Gabe Davis signing. We signed him for roughly $30 million less than we originally signed Christian Kirk for. And I think that they were relatively similar in their production before coming to Jacksonville. I just think that we're getting players for, I wouldn't necessarily say a discount, but more of their market value at this point in time than what we were originally. Of course, we've always overpaid for players. It's been really nice to see some of them work out now. That was just kind of my take, was I don't think that we're overpaying for anybody now. We've got a lot of great contracts. We got Morse on a solid veteran contract. We got the Gabe Davis on a good contract. Darby's not taking too much of the bank. We're restructuring some guys and getting some money back. I just think that we have gotten to a point where people want to come. They want to play for Doug Peterson. They want to play with Trevor Lawrence. They want to play with Josh Allen in that defense. I think that we're just at the point where we no longer have to overpay players. And, if we're missing out on players that we think we're going for, it's probably just because we weren't willing to overpay for them at this point. But that's just kind of my take on it at this point in time.
I gotta ask everybody real quick though, because I get the tingles, man. Like I just get it. I get excited when people say just the names. When you start talking about Trevor Lawrence and Josh Allen, I just start like just big play moments just start playing in my head. I get hyped, man. God, I cannot wait for football to come back. I just want to say, is that only me? Like, am I the only one? Like, dude, I start getting jumpy, man. Like I get ready.
We're doing a Jaguars podcast in April, bro. We're all ready.
I just want to make sure I'm not the only one that gets just like I'll jump up out of my seat right now.
My bad, Eric.
I've been like fully in draft mode, but yeah, obviously thinking about some of the big moments, some of the big throws, some of the big sacks by both of those, unbelievable. I'll say one thing about the Jack's tax, right? I agree. I think this offseason showed that it's pretty much gone. And the fact that Eric Armstead is getting paid less per year than like 20 other interior defenders in this league in Jacksonville, that's pretty wild.
Well, I did some numbers on it because, San Francisco on his podcast, he mentioned they offered him $6 million for 1 year, which crazy. If you do an income converter, that's like $3.73 million in Jacksonville.
Yeah.
For them to match our contract offer of 17 point whatever, it would have been like almost $32 million they would have had to pay him in San Francisco to match the amount of money he's going to get in Jacksonville because of no state taxes and the living differences.
Right.
San Fran, when they gave him that offer, they really shot themselves in the foot and never stood a chance. But yeah, no, like it's awesome that we got him and other players, but I just thought that was like an interesting fact that they offered him so much less money. Like we paid him, we really didn't pay him that much, honestly, I believe, for his talent. And like we still offered buku bucks compared to what they offered him because they have other guys that they're signing to big contracts and everything. So, shout out Balky for the Eric Armstead. He did mention on the podcast too that him and Balky are boys. So, that was definitely cool. Balky drafted him, of course. It was awesome.
Yeah, the Titans, I think they're paying the Jax tax this offseason.
They are for sure.
Right?
Absolutely.
Yes.
So that's kind of the difference in where those franchises are right now.
They're getting rid of a lot of that Music City money right now. They're just handing it out.
Yeah. Speaking of Jack's tax, I do want to say though, it's not even really a discussion topic, but shout out Ridley one time for waiting until after, so we didn't lose our second round.
Outstanding.
Shout out Ridley for that.
Yes.
Ridley's a real one for that. Because if nothing else, Ridley did say he wanted to stay in Duval. He made that clear that he did want to be in Duval. He even said it in his opening presser in Tennessee that he wanted to be in Duval. But shout out Ridley for being a real one with that. That's what I want to say about that. But now my biggest topic for me, like to relate personally to what I see on your page a lot, I guess to kind of segue us into maybe wrapping it up would be the NFL, as I'm sure everyone has seen now, has just released and now is allowing a new alternate helmet, a third. You can have 3 now. You being an apparel guy, what do you feel about the state of our uniforms? What do you feel about a revamp, maybe throwbacks, a third design helmet? Where do you feel we should go with that? I feel like it would be disrespectful to not even ask you while we have you on here.
Yeah, for sure. So like the helmet is the least of our worries, in my opinion. Like the Jaguars have a fantastic helmet. They always have. The all black helmet is awesome with the Jaguar logo on it. Whether that be the 90s and early 2000s logo or the current logo, it's a good helmet. Now, the Leaping Jaguar, the band logo, that helmet, that's pretty sick. But they can't use that, right? They're not going to be allowed to use that ever. So I wouldn't change the helmet. I mean, maybe if you want to use the throwback 90s, early 2000s logo, you can throw that on there. But the black helmet is sick, in my opinion. What I would like to see is a uniform change, or at the very least, throwbacks to the late 90s uniform. If you could wear that a couple times a year, that would be awesome. At home,
I would lose my mind. I'd love it.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Eric's got the jersey on right now. David Garrard.
David Garrard. Yes, yes, yes.
You know, that jersey is classic. And I know at the time people were excited about something new when they
Mhm.
changed away from that jersey. But that jersey is iconic. The number is iconic. The entire uniform, you know, whether you're wearing teal with white pants, all black, you know, whatever it is, it's just a really good look. And there was just something about NFL uniforms in the 90s and early 2000s. They just hit different.
Yeah.
I think they've gone way too minimal these days.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm kind of a minimal design guy when I talk about a lot of different things, but when it comes to sports, they were just hitting with those 90s logos and 90s uniforms.
So I am of the opinion that we are not going to release at least a new jersey style or like a throwback or anything until the new stadium is finished. I could 100% see them doing the new stadium and then doing like a whole uniform change just to kind of bring it all into a new era of Jags football. Do you think that's a possibility, or do you think maybe we'll get one before then?
I think I that would make sense, right? For a full uniform change. There's no reason to wait on the throwbacks. All the
Absolutely.
teams around the league are doing it now.
Mhm.
You
Right.
saw
Well,
such good results with it last year, just last year. I mean, the
oh yeah.
Buccaneers bringing it back, the Seahawks uniforms, all those uniforms just look great. So there's no reason, in my opinion, to wait on doing a throwback.
Oh, that's who I was going to bring up was the Bucks. Like when they changed uniforms when Brady came over, they changed, or they either changed the year before, right when he came over to, I mean, basically just a modernized version of their 90s jerseys back when Allstott and them played there. Like if we did something like that in Jacksonville, like I would buy one of every player that starts. Like if we did a modern version of the 90s uniform with the new logo, everything like that, I would be over the moon about it.
I'd be dumping money. Oh
yeah.
I think everyone would. I mean, it's a no-brainer. Like even people that aren't like huge Jags fans are like, yeah, that 90s 2000s jersey, that was sick.
Mm-hmm.
It was. It's a good look.
I can use a firm for this.
Did you guys catch them teasing us when they were putting it up on the big screens of the preview of the San Francisco game?
Oh no! Yeah. So they weren't even teasing us because before the season that was the Lefevre game where they were selling all the Lefevre or Lefevre, however you pronounce that. That was Lefevre. Okay, yeah. So it was predetermined before the season that they were going to do that, but they had throwback jersey or jackets, different stuff like that.
It was also like the homecoming game for all the old former Jaguar players.
Yeah, so that's why they did that one, and I was so excited, but I knew before the season they had announced. At least I got an email as a season ticket holder that's when they were going to drop all the gear and do all that stuff. But that would have been awesome. But I'm glad they didn't because we got our asses whooped. So that would have sucked to debut our throwback jerseys and get absolutely stomped by the 49ers.
Yeah.
But Christian McCaffrey didn't score a touchdown though. So
exactly.
No, he didn't.
Y'all know how high I jumped when he didn't do that. I'm like, yes, at least something came out good of this game. Yeah.
Well, all right, gentlemen. You have anything else for us, Trevor, before we close this out?
Nope, that was exactly what I was about to say. Is like unless anybody else has any topics they want to talk about, I've gone through all the topics I can think of, and I want to thank you, Jordan, for responding, first of all, to the invitation to come to the show and actually coming on. I want to encourage anybody that's watching right now to go check him out. Check his page out. He's got a lot of cool Jaguars gear and material, like apparel and stuff like that. And his pods as well. He's got some good takes, as you can tell. He's made some really good informed decisions just now before us. So that's all I have for today.
Yeah, I really appreciate you guys having me on. It was great to talk Jags football with y'all, get to know you a little bit better. And anytime, hit me up. I'm ready to talk some football. Really appreciate you guys.
Yeah, maybe we can do like a mid-season check-in.
Yeah, whatever you guys want.
Is that hat on the store?
It's sold out.
Oh, I didn't see it get posted, and now I'm like looking at it. I'm like, I really want that hat. Okay,
yeah, it's a fun one. Dusty Nomad, who's a local artist, we collaborated on this one. But yeah, we've got a bunch of stuff up on the site that's a lot of fun. There's a bunch of, like you said, kind of the band logo, throwback gear, hats, shirts, all that good stuff.
Okay.
Awesome, man. Yeah, and I'll make sure I'll get the link for it, get Curtis to plug it in on this one. Thanks again for coming on, man. It means a lot to us. Third and Teal, we're a growing channel. You know, your channel is huge. I've been watching you, like Trevor had mentioned. You know, we've all been watching you for years. At least me and Trevor have. Super excited for you to come on, man. Thanks again for everything.
No, thank you guys. I really appreciate it.
All right.
Yeah,
Nice to
buddy.
meet you, Jordan.
Yeah, man. Well, we're going to close it out here. If you guys made it this far, like and subscribe, come back. Make sure to go check out Gen Jag, his merch, his channel, and you know,
Leave
peace
some
out.
comments.
Yeah.
Yeah, leave some comments. Let us know what you guys want. Give us some topics you want to hear about.
I know y'all gonna do it, Eric and Trevor. So y'all just go ahead and get out of the way.
Duval!
There it is. All right, boys. Thank you.